You are really opening the eyes of people here in terms of because sometimes when you go to this, when you are walking on the street, you find out goats and cows eating from the refuse waste dumps, and in most cases they eat these plastics, and one begin to ask, what will that do to them? I don't know. Thank you for being part of this very program, I must tell you. And let's go over to this. Let's look at the impact on sustainable living. Though we've been talking about it. How does environmental degradation affect on ability to achieve sustainable living? And what are the consequences for future generations?
So sustainable living, if you like, call it sustainable development. Okay. Means around you know, it was the Broadland Convention that brought about the sustainable development, defining it to mean a development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generation in meeting their own needs. So what that means, it means do not burn the bridge. Whatever you are doing now, and then leave a very good legacy for the future generation. So if we are contaminating the water, because there's what they call two things are involved in the environment: the carrying capacity and purifying capacity.
Carrying capacity and purifying capacity.
It's just like a stadium. When they say the capacity of a stadium for a football match is 40,000, when you allow 45,000 people to enter, you have given it extra stress. And that stress, the consequence might not show immediately, but over time it will show. That's the same thing with the environment. Water, air, and soil, they have carrying capacity, and they also have purifying capacity. If the contamination level is such that the component of the environment is unable to purify itself, it becomes a problem. For instance, if you pee into a running water, and then at that first instance you see the color of the urine, and then at the another stage that goes, it purifies itself. That's why when you are doing water test, you need to take the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. They might give you different quality. So when the environment is unable to purify itself, it becomes a problem, and that is not good for the future. If your environmental components are bad, and then the future generation inherit that, so it means they have inherited liability, environmental liability, which is not good. So there will be food insecurity, there will be poor air quality, and then there will be all sorts of discomfort, emanating from that very because each action in environment counts a lot. So there is no big action in environment, there's no small action. Every action counts.
Every action counts. Every action counts. Okay, every action counts. What role do individuals, as I am, as you are, and others are there, what role do we play so as reducing waste and to make sure that we reduce waste so as to avoid this environmental degradation?
So as individuals, so we have a duty to have that environmental consciousness in whatever we do. We should buy what we should consume, and not to leverage or not to rely on what we may not use. And for instance, I think we all need to ensure that we dispose our waste properly.
We dispose our waste
properly, and then go into practices that are sustainable. But I must tell you, there's a little to what individual can do, because in this climate, we like to be coerced. We need some form of enforcement for things to be done right. For instance, we just spoke about the plastic pollution. If you go to all the hypermarkets in Abuja, the shopping malls, so they use plastic, and then so now there can be a kind of environmental tax. You levy all the hypermarkets. If you must use this plastic package bags, so there's a form of tax you need to pay. You can call it environmental tax. So there's what you need to pay. If you don't want to pay this tax, can we have something that is biodegradable? so that after the shopping it can be shredded. And then so if you don't want to use that, you pay the tax. So there's what used to be enforced before, they call it polluters pay principle. So when you are polluting the environment, you pay. When you are, for the waste, you are, if you are generating waste such as plastic waste, you also pay. So there must be that environmental tax. And then we must try to discourage people from using single-use plastic products.
I want to, you've mentioned this. This is the second time you're mentioning it. What is this class of single-use plastic?
Yeah, you know, if you like, for instance, when you go to a wedding party or birthday party, there's what they call disposable cup.
Cups. Okay.
So when you use that cup, it means that you cannot transfer it to another person. You might not be able to use it twice.
Okay.
So it is not advisable to be using that kind of thing. So if you had a glass cup or maybe something that you can use thereafter, it's fine. So the moment, but the moment you use it, it means another person cannot use it, and it goes into increasing the microbial load on the environment. Okay. And then another thing is to ensure that, you know, when everybody keeps doing borehole, everybody keeps doing the sockaway pit, it is not also good for us. For instance, now we just talk about contamination. So if all of us are into sockaway pits, it means we do not know what is happening to the underground water. There's what is called leachate. When this contaminated water goes down, so they leach on the underground water. Because if you check the water cycle very well, that is the main source. That is the main source of recharge. Okay. So littering sockaway everywhere is not good. That's where you see in FCC, the Federal Capital City, you know, there's difference between FCC and the FCT. The FCC comprises of the Ibros, the Big Boys area, the Asokoro, the Maitama, Wuse. In those places, you wouldn't find sockaway pits. So what they do, they channel their waste into Central Siwa, which is at Whooper treatment plant. Okay. So at there, they do what they call biological treatment. So they reduce the microbial waste. They allow microorganisms to feed on that waste. They reduce there's what they call biochemical oxygen demand. So they allow them to feed on that waste, and thereafter they release the water back into the environment harmlessly. So that is to show that it's a practice that can be sustained. You see, another problem we're having is the urban sprawl, where you have informal settlements that are not regulated. So majority of these non-sustainable practices are from the informal settlements. And then the government and other stakeholders have a duty to ensure that the environmental issues are taken very seriously.